This episode of r/entitled parents is dedicated to #TeamCs, a campaign started by Mr. Beast and Mark Rober aiming to remove as much waste as possible from our oceans, rivers, and beaches. Because of this, all the stories in today's episode will be about entitled parents and kids littering in one way or another, and everyone else obviously just getting very annoyed at them. I'll tell you all about how you can personally get involved with #TeamCs after today's first story. They pay people to do that. I, a 40-year-old woman, was an assistant manager at a movie theatre back in the day, when Cars was first released. Not sure if this is still a rule now, but Disney required all theatres showing their movies to offer 5 showings a day. Now, since this was a 2-hour movie, we got literally 5 minutes between seatings to clean up between shows. I was hustling in to help the crew before we had to allow seating, and I came up, with broom and dustpan in hand, upon a Karen and her child. Her kid had picked up his snack box and drink cup and was carrying it to the trash can. She tittered and said, "Oh no, sweetie, they pay people to pick that up for you. Put it down." The kid proceeded to squeal with glee and throw the box, full of popcorn and half-consumed soda, at my feet, where it exploded everywhere. She laughed and waved her hand in my face as if it excused the action, then took his hand and tried to walk past me. I stepped in her way and said, "You pick that up." She cackled and waved her hand again, trying to pull her kid up the aisle. I stepped in front of her again and said, "I said, pick that up." She kept grinning and chuckling like it was a frickin' joke. I had the kid's soda dripping down my legs and soaking my shoes. I didn't budge. She demanded to speak to my manager. I informed her that he was a bigger butthole than I was, and she wouldn't get anywhere with him before kneeling down to the toddler's level, looking him dead in the eye, and saying, "Don't let your mum turn you into a butthole." She screeched for my manager, who by the way is my best friend, who laughed in her face, told her to stop littering, and asked her if she'd behave any differently if someone behaved the same way in her house, and to get the frick out of our theatre. She left the theatre, screaming at the top of her lungs that she would never come back, and would tell all her friends to never come back either. We shouted, "Awesome! Thank you." She was back literally the next day, because she wanted free childcare while she went shopping with her friends. She didn't realise our staff worked pretty much 7 days a week. We had to call the police, because we had 8 abandoned children, ages 4 to 13, and were locking up for the night at 2 a.m. Honestly, I don't know why I'm surprised by the levels of entitlement that I still see in this subreddit every single day, but wow, your kid is about to put something in the bin and you say, "No, that's not your job. Chuck it on the floor instead." Unbelievable. Now, before we move on to today's second story, first of all, let me tell you about the whole point of this video, #TeamCs. Now, I'm sure the majority of you guys know what this campaign is all about already, but to put it simply, for every $1 donated, that means that £1 of waste will be removed from oceans, rivers, and beaches. Now, as you can see on screen, I've already donated a little bit of money myself. That's hopefully going to clear £50 worth of waste, which, by the way, that's a lot of waste. And I'm going to tell you about how you can get involved and do the same as well, if you like to. So guys, if you do want to get involved, this is the website right here. I'll leave it hopefully behind the I button, but of course it will also be in the description and the first line in the pinned comment. This is what you do. Look, every $1 is one less pound of trash in the ocean. Let's say you want to donate just $1. That's still a solid amount. Genuinely, every little helps. You go in here, type in $1, click next, you enter your details. This is where it's important. Do whatever you want here, 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 and here. Team name, it has to be this. Of course, type in Redditor, and that will mean that every person's donation that is under the team name Redditor will show up together, so we can see as a collective how much money we've raised. Pretty cool, right? So look, if you come in here and you type in Redditor up here on the leaderboard donor search, you can see we have 1 donation under the team name Redditor, Reddit Gang Unite, only me. But hey, let's try and get as many as we can. Trust me, it's such a worthy cause. And I also really love when YouTubers do this sort of thing. It just makes me want to donate even more to such a worthy cause that, you know, these guys are doing selflessly. So yeah, let's get behind them. If you haven't already donated, it's an amazing thing to donate to. I've done it myself. Get in the mix. Links down below. Alternatively, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, you can check out the fundraiser that is linked somewhere on screen right now. Maybe over here or down here. It's green, fundraiser. It says #TeamCs. Click on that. You can donate through that as well, and it'll work just the same way. Right then, now for our second story of today's episode. Oh, you want him to clean up your mess? Allow me. A thing just happened that I'm unable to write about yet. But the encounter involved a woman I could have sworn I'd seen at the dog park before, and couldn't recall when. I just connected the dots and recalled where I'd seen her before, and here we are. At my dog park, people tend to come at the same times, meaning if you keep going at the same time, you'll get to know the regulars. One of the regulars is named Frankie, and he comes to the park every morning at 8 a.m. with the queen of the dog park, a retired racing greyhound named Lady. She serves as a greeter to all humans, breaks up scuffles before they can escalate, and scares off marauding motorcycles, muscle cars, and big rig trucks. Thing about Frankie is, he's old, like mid-80s old. As such, he's got age-related health issues, which includes arthritis in his back and knees. After watching him slowly and painfully shamble over to wherever Lady took a dump to clean up the mess, I decided I'd do him a solid and take over bagging for him whenever I was able. One morning in particular, there was a new woman in the park with a super adorable German Shepherd puppy. Like, still puppy-sized, but with ears that could probably get decent satellite reception. All the dog parents are chatting and monitoring the dogs playing, and I see Lady taking a dump. When I noticed, I asked Frankie for a bag and then bagged the evidence and gave it to him. The park has dumb rules about carry in, carry out, but I digress. I resumed chatting with the other dog parents and occasionally throwing the ball for my floof when out of nowhere, a manicured hand clutching a poop bag appears in front of my face, accompanied by a woman's voice saying, "Here." I grab this random gift and look around for my dog, figuring someone's being an idiot about telling me that my dog took a poop when he was outside my line of sight. I ask where my dog pooped and try to give the bag back, turning to look at the woman since I've got my own bags. Now she's a little bit older than me, but still perfectly physically sound. This woman says, "Oh, no, your dog didn't poop. Tucker made a stinky over that direction," and accompanies this breathtaking display of entitlement with an idle hand wave in a vague direction. Now I'm still not getting the picture here, so I continue holding the bag out and ask who Tucker is. She indignantly informs me that Tucker is that puppy over there, and I bagged Frankie's mess, so I should bag hers. My knee-jerk reaction would have been, how about no? But I suppressed it in time, and gently informed the woman that I only do that because he's a friend of mine, and well, shouldn't be bending over to bag poops anyway. Meaning no offense, but you're perfectly capable of cleaning up after your puppy, and I've got no interest in doing it for you. You could see the frown on her face evolve into a thundercloud, and began threatening to erupt. I had a mental bet with myself, going on whether she would claim she's too busy, or if she'd just go for old reliable and start spouting off about young people lacking respect, despite me being maybe 5 years younger than her. Before she can get herself worked up into a proper tantrum, Frankie starts doing that cackle that's unique to old men. You know the one I'm talking about, I hope. The same sound that emits from Grandpa after he's found a grandchild who is foolish enough to actually pull his finger. As he's cackling, he's levering himself out of the launcher he presides over the dog park from, and limps over to snatch the bag from my hand. He says I've helped him out enough. Time for him to help me. Then he makes his way over to wherever it was that Tucker left his stinky. The whole time you can practically hear his bones creaking. He's hobbling and limping, and quite clearly in some pain from doing this. He arrives at the scene of the crime, and then slowly, painfully, creakily, did I mention slowly, bends down and bags the surprisingly large turd Tucker left. He then shambles back down towards the group with the biggest poop-eating grin on his face and holds the brown gold out to the woman and says, "Here you go." By this point, the woman's face is bright red from mortification, and she snatches the bag from Frankie and scurries off to scoop up her puppy and flee the scene. By the time Frankie's maneuvered his old bones back into his throne, the woman has burned out of the parking lot and off into the distance. Italian Alice, named such because there's 2 women named Alice who have dogs from the same litter, which are effectively identical. They look fairly similar too, and woe betide to the poor soul who confuses Italian Alice with Greek Alice, looks at Frankie and says, "You sandbagging son of a gun. I know you're old, but you're not that old." He starts cackling again and says, "I know that, you know that, but she didn't know that." My word, where do you live, honestly, where this Karen thought that there would be some sort of staff member going around a local park picking up people's dog poo? Seriously? Like, I don't think that happens anywhere in the world. Literally. So for her to expect it to happen in a local park, how stupid can you be? I've got to say though, Big Frankie, big fan of you. You sound like an absolute legend, mate. And also, yeah, he's definitely sandbagging. Of course he's old and probably isn't the best idea to bend down and stuff, but making the most out of it in an attempt to make this woman feel as bad as possible. I love it. And you know what? It serves her right for being an absolute clown.